Welcome back to the Rebel's Edge, where today we get to address CPI and what that did to the market. Pete and I will describe right after this. Bang! Welcome back to Rebel's Edge. I'm Jon Najarian. He is Pete Najarian. We're here at the Money Show. We're doing a book signing of It's Not an Option. And we got to kind of rush through a little bit, folks, but you can get your free copy by going to itsnotanoption.com. That's itsnotanoption.com. All right, Pete, let's dive right into macro because today we got the CPI. Inflation rate accelerated to 3.5% in March. That pretty much dashed the hopes of a bunch of the folks that still thought we had a chance in June. It dropped from 62% last week to 50-50 shot yesterday, Pete. And now I give our chances 1 in 5. It's 20% today, Pete.
Yeah, a little red October. It makes us smile on a day when the market's just getting the crap kicked out of it. And we talked about it yesterday, John. We said CPI is going to be the focus. It is, and it did not come in well. And that type of number, everybody just backed off, and everybody's a little surprised. Why are they surprised, John? Have they not gone to gas stations? Have they not gone out to eat? Have they not gone out? I mean, the reality is we know this is where it is right now. We see inflation. It's damn sticky, and yet it's shocking to the markets, which it shouldn't be. But the markets are getting pushed to the downside in a big way today.
Yeah, they love always saying, Pete, well, we take out volatile food and energy. Well, let me see. As we always say, a lot of us drive ICE cars, internal combustion engine cars, which means they consume gas. And then a lot of us actually consume food. Some of us don't, but most of us that do know it's a lot more expensive every single month. And that's why Pete's saying it's no surprise if you paid attention. All right, Pete, let's pay attention to the Russell 2000 because that is down twice as much as stocks are. That's why I'm saying fantastic futures.
Fantastic futures.
Not real fantastic for anybody who's in the Russell stocks, Pete.
No, not fantastic at all. Real quick, I'll just hit this, John. Volatility. We've been talking about it. You've talked about the fact that it's at the highest ends, and it certainly is. And today, obviously, with the market getting pushed to the downside, we are sniffing right around that 16 level, John. So that, I think, is going to be something very, very interesting to watch is that going to become more and more sticky? And I think based upon what we're seeing right now and some of the news today, hopefully some of the news tomorrow is a little cooler, but that's tomorrow. So right now we're very, very close to 16 on that volatility index.
Well, folks, as I said, we're here at the Money Show and we have to sort of speed through because Pete and I have to be on stage in just moments. So we're going to hit Delta. And Delta Airlines reported better than expected Q1 earnings. Gee, you think there's inflation there, Pete? I kind of felt it when I looked around at all the different airfares for the last quarter, and all of them were up. There was nothing that was down. That means they're probably making a little more money, right, Pete?
Well, they're able to pass it along. They're passing the buck, John, because they're paying a little bit more for fuel. We all know that. We were just talking about that. But you look at Delta, they've done a really good job, along with the airlines themselves, in terms of passing that along to the customer. And as long as the customer continues to buy it, John, that's working out pretty well. Those numbers were really, really impressive, I thought, for Delta. It's going to be very interesting to see how long that can last, though. Will people continue to be able to buy those tickets at the prices that they are right now, or do they start to put their hands in their pockets?
Yeah, and they might do the latter, but time will tell. All right, Pete, let's talk about consumer discretionary stocks, because I couldn't pick just one today, Pete. But higher inflation rate year over year for March. We were expected that it was going to be hotter than last month, but you know what, Pete? The core inflation rate being as high as it is means that maybe some of those folks that we've just talked about are not going to be spending as freely. Maybe some of the folks that actually feel the pinch of higher gas prices are going to say, you know what, Restoration Hardware, Home Depot, maybe Williams Sonoma, some of the discretionary spends, not the ones that you buy every single day, but the ones that you do have some discretion as to when to spend, well, I think those stocks are getting cracked 3 to 6% today.
And that's why you've got to know where you are, where is the economy headed, and are they heading in the right or wrong direction? And right now we've got some serious issues, John, and based upon that, you would expect to see some of those names really start to pull back because people will pull back. It is what we see it all the time. And when the money is going in the usual spots, now you don't have the money to be able to go in the spots where you'd like to be able to have that discretion. So I think the one that I would actually be able to hold up best of some of the stocks that you were just talking about, John, might be somebody like Home Depot, especially because we're getting towards spring. Obviously, we're in spring, but people are going to start talking about it more and more in the Midwest. Maybe they spend a little bit there. But I'll tell you what, Williams-Sonoma and some of these others, that's something I think we have to monitor very closely.
Yep, and we will. That's something that the producer price index tomorrow should reflect some of the costs that the producers of the goods that we buy, that they're experiencing. All right, Hexcel, Pete, HXL. These guys advanced composite materials for the aerospace industry. And they, out of the blue, Pete, named Tom Gentile, a former CEO of Spirit Aerosystems, as their next president and the top boss starting May 1st. But they didn't bother to sort of say, hey, we've got a CEO search going on right now, a president search going on. They didn't tell Wall Street anything. So how do you suppose Wall Street took that, Pete?
Hands out.
Yeah.
I think the read through there is you better have much more information going out so people have an understanding of this, but that's not the case. And right now you're seeing a stock that's under some serious pressure. It'll be interesting. It is partially the day as well, John. Let's be honest about that. But nonetheless, I think that this is a stock that they put themselves into a really interesting box right now. And that stock, it's not one you're going to want to chase because I think you're going to have to chase it for too long. I think you're going to have to wait for any kind of a turn. And until we see this turn around, I think this is a no-touch type stock.
Well, the analyst from Bank of America, Pete, had the quote of the day on this one. He says, I think this news will be poorly received by the market. And that was indeed an understatement. All right, because it's down 13% right now, folks. Yeah. Let's talk about Google, Pete, Goog. They're really getting serious about chips. I know you thought I was going to say AI, but they're really getting serious about chips. And they are going to an AI play here, Pete, because it's making a new ARM-based CPU called Axion. And that's going to help with their AI, no doubt about that. But they're really going after this new chip, Pete, because Google thinks they need it to basically become more and more of an AI play for their YouTube ads and all the other cloud services and so forth. So this is a very interesting announcement by Google.
Yeah, it is. And I think it's pretty impressive. I think when you look at Google, John, one of the things that still stands out for me, outside of all this news, ARM and everything else, you look at this company, John, it's the one company that doesn't seem to be all that stretched relative to a lot of the others that you put into for instance, the Magnificent Seven or wherever you want to slide them. But this is a stock that is actually traded very well. And yet, when you look at it, the PE is still reasonable as opposed to some of them where it's gotten pretty stretched. By the way, speaking of stretched, who's the stretched guy behind you there?
Well, you know, we're going to be shooting some more commercials today here, folks, for you know what, your favorite book. It's not an option.
Darn right.
And yeah, so all of what you're seeing behind me and some of what you see behind Pete is after the money show, we're going to be in here recording a bunch of commercials. So I figure it's just like being in the American Airlines or United lounges, Pete. About the same. Yep. And God bless them. All right. Let's talk a little sports, shall we, Pete?
Yeah, we'll hit it really quick, but we're still going to hit it, John, because I think it's interesting to watch what the Vikings are doing. We talk about the Chicago Bears all the time and the draft picks that they've got. The Vikings have 2 picks in the first round as well. Are they going to trade up or are they going to sit right where they are because potentially they could get who they want? I personally am in the camp of they should just sit. But, John, they worked out Michael Penix just the other day. And everybody who walked away from that workout said, man, that guy might be the best quarterback of them all. Now, that's on the QT, but I'm letting him out there. I'm just not telling you who said that. But this guy, John, you already knew. I mean, this guy's special. And everybody's biggest concern is, well, he's got the injury problem. Yeah, that actually all happened in a previous life for him before he got to Washington. Since he got to Washington, he's never missed a practice. He's never missed a game. And this is a guy who ran a 4.5 40. He's very athletic. He's very accurate. I think if the Vikings could end up getting this guy somewhere close to 23, John, that could be a major coup for the Minnesota Vikings because he really is special. And we all know that there's a couple of quarterbacks going in front of him, but maybe they don't deserve to be going in front of him.
Yeah, when you look at his numbers, Pete, he and Bo Nix had some of the most impressive numbers in all of collegiate football. And yet they're in the afterthought category. And I think you're exactly right. That's probably a mistake.
All right, so now let's hit real quick just a little bit of baseball, John. I'm looking at baseball in the early parts. Now, you can't judge it. They play a gazillion games, as we know, but we're only like 12 games into it, right? 14 games into it. I was taking a look. Last year at this time, John, it was all of the teams that didn't have that high payroll were pretty dominant. As a matter of fact, throughout the entire year, they basically dominated Baltimore and some of these various teams. But I'll tell you what, this year, the money is starting to speak a little bit. Here's a little bit of a roundup. Atlanta's paying $230 million. The Yankees are $303 million. Dodgers $250 million. Red Sox $178 million. These guys are somewhere in that top group of the payment that the players are playing for right now, and they're all starting at least the season pretty daggone nicely, John. I don't know that that's necessarily a theme. I still think you can do it with less money going out there. But this year, at least right now, early on, it's those high payrolls that are actually paying off for some of these teams.
Yeah, and Pete, I think a lot of people were surprised by teams like the Dodgers, for instance, or the Mets, for that matter, the Yankees, that, weren't really part of the discussion last year, and it was all Texas Rangers. And maybe tomorrow, Pete, will talk about the Texas Rangers and that really cool ring that they got, because it might be the flashiest ring in all of sports. It is just so cool, and it's more unique than any ring. And it's, God, Pete, it's about as big as this mouse on my finger. I mean, it is huge, and there's a lot of interesting things about it. But anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow. Yeah. So, folks, remember, you can always go to marketrebellion.com/get started to learn more about trading, because we can educate you in options. You can also get subscriptions there, so make sure you check it out. marketrebellion.com/get started. It's always right there on the bottom of the screen during the show, and we will see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Bang.